Imagine the world in the year 1287. As the first pale light of dawn stretches across the frost-covered hills of medieval Europe, two lives stir awake, one in a towering stone castle wrapped in velvet and legacy, the other in a mud-thatched cottage filled with the scent of old hay and smoke. The air is still, cold, but not uncomfortable. Inside thick stone walls, lined with finely woven tapestries of hunts and battles, the king of Eldenmark lies on a raised, canopied bed, the mattress stuffed with soft goose feathers, its drapes heavy with brocade. Beside him burns a slow-dying fire, tended all night by a silent servant whose name the king may never know. His chamber smells of lavender-stuffed pillows, beeswax candles, and the faint iron tang of armor resting in the corner. Before the king opens his eyes, the routine has already begun. 3 chamberlains wait quietly outside the carved wooden doors. They've already drawn water from the well, heated it in bronze cauldrons, and poured it into his silver-lined basin. A personal priest stands nearby, ready to offer morning prayers the moment His Majesty awakes. As the king stirs, a servant gently parts the curtains and says, "Your Majesty, it is dawn." With barely a word, the king sits up. The chamberlain approaches with a robe of imported wool, dyed deep crimson, a color rare and costly. The fire is stoked. The basin steams. The king begins his day not with labor, not with stress, but with ceremony. His hands are washed by others. His hair is combed with care. His breakfast, honeyed oatcakes, eggs from the royal hens, and watered wine, is being prepared in the great kitchen, 2 floors below. Now let us shift. Only 15 miles away, in the village of Farthingdale, the peasant Elric awakens to a different world entirely. There is no gentle voice to wake him, no goose feather bed. Instead, it is the crow of a rooster, shrill and relentless, that calls him to life, long before the sun fully rises. His bed is nothing more than a wooden frame stuffed with straw and covered with a tattered wool blanket. The blanket is shared, with his wife, their youngest child, and sometimes the family dog for warmth. He sits up. The cold bites instantly. His breath forms a mist in the air. There is no fire left from the night. He shivers as his feet touch the dirt floor. His back aches. He is only 34, yet his body feels 60. He stands, pulls on a rough-spun tunic, patched at the elbows, and laces his leather boots, still damp from the previous day's rain. Outside, the cottage smells of ash and old wood. Inside, smoke lingers from last night's hearth. A blend of burning peat, pig fat, and whatever dry twigs could be found. There is no breakfast waiting for him. Instead, his wife is crushing barley with a hand stone while the older children collect eggs, if any hens laid in the chill. He eats whatever's ready, maybe a stale crust dipped in watered ale, brewed by the village women. And then, there is no moment of silence. No prayers offered on his behalf. The only prayer he mutters is for dry skies and no blight in the fields. The king, now bathed and dressed, walks through a hall of stained glass and columns. As he passes, guards bow. Courtiers whisper. Every step he takes echoes with history. He eats at a long table, silver goblet in hand, parchment awaiting his approval. Outside, hawks circle the morning sky, waiting for the day's falconry hunt. He does not sow. He does not reap. His hands are clean. But his mind is already burdened. Who shall he marry his daughter to? What taxes must be raised? Is the northern border safe? Are the knights loyal? Are the whispers true? He carries no scythe, but he carries power, and with it, anxiety that never sleeps. The peasant, meanwhile, shoulders a hoe and walks to the field, the same path his father took, and his father before him. The earth is cold, stubborn. His hands calloused, his belly never full. Yet as he walks through the fog-laced path between fields and forest, he hums a folk song he learned as a child. His thoughts are simpler. Will the calf survive the winter? Will the barley sprout strong this year? Will the landlord take more than promised? His concerns are raw, grounded. But unlike the king, his children run to him, hug his knees. His wife smiles at him across the hearth, despite the smoke and soot. He knows hardship, but he also knows closeness. In the rising sun, we see two silhouettes, one crowned, armored, and silent, the other muddy-booted, sweating and singing. Both men rule a world, one from a throne, the other from the soil. But which life is richer? In part 2, we shall walk with the king through his court, feel the weight of his crown, and follow the peasant through the endless labor of the fields. Stay with us, as the tale of two lives unfolds like a forgotten scroll in a candlelit scriptorium. As the golden sunlight filters through stained glass in the castle chapel, and as it spills across furrows in the village field, two lives move forward, shaped by the hour, separated by fate. By the third hour after dawn, the king of Eldenmark is seated in the great hall, a long vaulted room with marble pillars, boar-head torches, and banners of lineage fluttering faintly in the draught. He does not sit alone. The king is flanked by his advisors, the chancellor, lord marshal, high priest, and treasurer. They present him scrolls, inked reports, disputes from the barons, complaints from merchants, and whispers of rebellion from distant outposts. His brow furrows. His voice remains measured, low, like thunder beneath velvet. Today's court concerns a noble accused of seizing land from a monastery, a shipment of salt stolen near the river ford, a marriage proposal between the Duke of Harwin's daughter and his own nephew. His word must be final. His judgment cannot falter. In every glance from a courtier, he sees ambition. In every bow, calculation. He is both respected and feared, and always watched. The king is not free to simply walk. Even his steps are followed, his posture read like scripture. He is clothed in gold-threaded garments, but inside, there is pressure like armor against the skin. And yet, even now, the king does not lift a finger in labor. He does not cook. He does not clean. He does not swing sword unless for show. His entire day is thought and talk, ink and law, diplomacy and masks. A man cloaked in power, and chained to it. Let us return to Elric of Farthingdale. By now, the sun is higher, and sweat clings to his brow. He has been in the fields for hours, hands blistering around a wooden plow. The oxen are tired, and the soil is unyielding. He pauses, but only for a breath. His wife brings a sack of food, coarse bread, a piece of dried onion, and some curdled cheese wrapped in linen. They sit on a stone near the field's edge, children chasing chickens nearby, their laughter echoing with the rhythm of life itself. There is no silver platter here, no cups lined with jewels. Only wood, earth, and skin. But there is something sacred in this moment. A closeness that royalty often dreams of. When Elric eats beside his family, surrounded by chickens and dung and warmth, he knows belonging, not just ownership. Yet the peace is fleeting. There is no time to waste. The Lord Steward will ride by in the evening, checking how much labor was done for the week. And if Elric's tithe is short, if he cannot offer eggs, grain, or wool, he will owe a debt that may cost him a winter's firewood or his daughter's blanket. His life is labor, and the land takes more than it gives. Yet the peasant continues, with quiet resilience. In the late morning, the king may walk briefly in his castle courtyard, a garden tended by 15 workers. Roses from Iberia, medicinal herbs, gravel paths lined with limestone. He is accompanied by knights in half armor, 2 hounds and his cupbearer. Children are not seen. The castle is a place of purpose, not play. If the king smiles, even for a moment, 100 eyes catch it, and 100 minds guess its meaning. Meanwhile, in the village commons, barefoot children roll in the grass, shouting in half-sung songs. The women gather near the well, exchanging gossip and herbs. A traveling peddler arrives, offering spoons, wool thread, and a single iron comb. Elric trades a bundle of firewood for a flask of salt. There is no wealth, but there is exchange, of goods, of laughter, of shared worries. A community built not on conquest, but on survival. By midday, the king retreats to his solar, a private chamber where stained glass sends color dancing across his desk. Here he writes letters in Latin, reads scrolls of trade reports, and perhaps, for a rare moment, opens a book of poetry. But even solitude is not peace. His enemies are quiet, yes, but only in public. The wrong treaty, the wrong alliance, the wrong heir, and daggers may find him in the dark. He eats lunch, roasted quail, buttered leeks, pomegranate seeds, with the high steward. A meal served with ritual. But he chews slowly, distracted by a distant thought. What if the bishop does not bless the royal decree? Elric has no such thoughts. He returns to the forest edge with an axe on his shoulder, chopping firewood to trade for oil. Every swing jars his joints. Every fallen branch is a blessing. The sun is cruel now. Sweat burns into his cuts. But as he works, his son brings him a drink of water, drawn from a nearby stream. Muddy but cool. And for that moment, Elric smiles. Not because he has won a battle, but because he has survived a moment. 2 men. 2 hearts. Both tired. One, in velvet robes, seated in a high-backed chair of carved oak, surrounded by painted saints and maps of a kingdom. The other, shirt half-torn, standing in the dust, hands raw from earth and bark. But each, in his own way, carries a burden that does not let go. One walks with the weight of a realm. The other walks with the weight of survival. As the sun climbs past its peak, shadows stretch longer over the fields, and across the stone walls of the castle. The kingdom breathes. And both the king and the peasant carry on. The king has eaten. He has signed proclamations. And now, as the warm light streams through stained glass, it is time for one of the most exhausting parts of the day. The audience chamber. Here, beneath a high-arched ceiling adorned with royal crests, nobles and knights wait their turn to speak to the throne. One by one, they approach, with flattery, with petitions, with veiled threats dressed in formalities. Your Majesty, the harvest in East March was meager. Shall we not reduce their levy this winter? Sire, my cousin dares wear arms in my forest. He dishonors my name and your authority. A foreign envoy from Aquitaine brings wine and a marriage proposal. Behind every smile is a dagger. Every request has a hidden price. Every gift is a transaction cloaked in silk and wine. The king must answer with wisdom. with caution, with performance. His every blink is studied, his tone analyzed. He must appear strong, yet merciful, intelligent, yet humble, firm yet just. His words may forge alliances or spark wars. His nod may enrich a noble, or ruin one. And yet, even now, as he sits beneath the golden lion banner, his stomach turns not from poison or plague, but from doubt. Who among these smiles truly wishes me dead? Now return, if you will, to Elric. The heat is now heavy. Sweat darkens his tunic. His arms ache. His knees tremble slightly as he hunches over, gathering turnips and root vegetables into a splintered basket. There is no room for rest. If the harvest is poor, his children may eat gruel for weeks. If the steward arrives and finds the rows unfinished, Elric may face extra dues, or worse, lose a portion of his land. Yet, even here, in this backbreaking labor, there is a kind of peace. The rhythm of scythe and breath. The scent of tilled soil and crushed green stalks. The wind gently humming through dry corn husks. Nature, though unkind, does not deceive. By mid-afternoon, a bell rings in the distance, from the village chapel. It is time to pray. The peasant wipes his hands, drops his tools, and kneels, facing the small wooden cross at the edge of the field. His prayer is simple. God grant us bread. Keep the wolves from the flock. Spare the children from fever. Let it rain just enough. There are no Latin verses, no stained glass, just a bowed head and trembling hands. But perhaps his prayer reaches higher than those offered in marble chapels. After the audience chamber clears, the king may walk his inner gardens, a carefully curated display of wealth, with imported lilies and a reflecting pool. Here, his children play under the eyes of nannies and tutors. He may join them for a moment, lifting his son into the air. For that fleeting second, he is not a ruler, but a father. But even this tenderness is cut short. A rider arrives, dust on his cloak. News from the north. A bishop writes of discontent in the city. A foreign prince demands the return of a relic stolen during the last war. There is no true rest. The king may visit the library, hear a minstrel play, sip spiced wine from an ornate cup. But every joy is laced with vigilance. Even laughter sounds different when echoed off stone walls meant to stop arrows. Elric returns from the fields. As he enters the village, he sees the cooper arguing with the baker over spilled grain. The blacksmith's wife weeps, her baby fevered. The steward's men tally goats and hens, collecting tithes for the overseer. A pig escapes. Children chase it. The sky turns gray. Elric sighs. He gathers kindling. His back throbs. The day is not done. He notices that the old widow down the lane has no wood stacked for the evening fire. Without a word, he leaves a few branches by her door. He gains no reward. No one sees it. But it is the act of a king, born in a peasant's skin. The king, wrapped in robes of velvet, is surrounded by 10 guards, and yet feels alone. The peasant, clothed in rags and sweat, walks through mud, yet feels known by every face. Power isolates. Simplicity connects. Sub behind small cloud as the afternoon fades. The day begins to lean toward dusk. The king prepares for a council meeting by torchlight. War may be declared. New taxes discussed. His heart is weary, but the crown does not allow early sleep. The peasant returns to his cottage, where the hearth crackles. His children greet him with loud joy. His wife places a bowl of thick pottage before him. He sits, not on a throne, but on a carved stump near the fire, and feels warmth, not just from flame, but from faces that need no title. And yet, both men before night falls will wonder, am I doing enough? Am I safe? What will tomorrow take from me? The hour of dusk draws near. Shadows lengthen. Owls stir. And both king and peasant feel the weight of a world they did not fully choose. The king, cloaked in deep velvet robes trimmed with gold thread, moves through the stone corridors accompanied by the steady footsteps of 10 armored guards. Yet despite the grandeur, the tapestry-lined walls, and the murmurs of courtiers, a profound loneliness weighs upon him. Surrounded by power, he is isolated within a fortress of expectations. No whispered secret can be trusted. No smile is without motive. His crown glistens under flickering torchlight, but it is a heavy burden, cold and unyielding against his weary brow. The vast hallways echo with his footsteps, but the silence that follows is louder still. Each guarded glance reminds him that trust is a currency rarer than gold. He is watched, measured, and tested, never truly free. His advisors speak with caution, their eyes flicking to his expression for signs of approval or anger. Yet, beneath the regal composure, the king's heart beats with a quiet, relentless anxiety. The fear of failing those who depend on him, of making the wrong decision, of losing everything he has inherited. Meanwhile, just beyond the castle's high walls, the peasant walks home through fields softened by the fading light. His clothes are worn and patched, his hands cracked from toil, his boots caked with mud and dust. Unlike the king's solitude, Elric's world is filled with familiar faces, neighbors sharing stories, children laughing and chasing one another in the village lanes, the comforting murmur of village life alive and breathing around him. Though poor and worn, he feels woven into a tapestry of community, where shared hardship is met with shared strength. His footsteps are uneven, the ache in his back a constant reminder of the day's labor. Yet, as he walks, the scent of burning wood from nearby hearths mingles with the earthiness of fresh-turned soil. A breeze carries the faint sound of a lute playing softly in a distant cottage. Here, amid simplicity, there is connection, a life raw and unvarnished, but undeniably real. The king prepares for the evening council meeting, the weight of his decision settling heavier with every tick of the clock. The room will be dim, illuminated only by flickering candles whose shadows dance across stone walls etched with history. There will be debates over war and peace, taxes and alliances. His advisors will lean in close, their voices low but urgent, each word potentially tipping the fragile balance of power. He will sit at the head of the table, his face unreadable, concealing the storm of doubts that rage within. His thoughts drift briefly to the faces of his people, peasants and nobles alike. Does he truly understand their struggles? Does his judgment serve justice or only maintain his throne? These questions haunt him in moments of quiet. His position grants him authority, yet it also isolates him in a crown of loneliness. Meanwhile, Elric steps into his humble cottage. The warm glow of the hearth welcomes him after a day spent under the harsh sun. His children burst forth with eager voices and clumsy hugs, their dirt-smudged faces alight with joy at his return. His wife offers a bowl of thick, hearty pottage, simple food, yet a feast in this modest home. He sits on a roughly carved wooden stool, not a throne, but a seat earned through relentless labor and unyielding love. Around the fire, the family shares stories of the day, the child's first stumble, the neighbor's sick cow, the coming festival at the chapel. In this circle, Elric finds a peace that no gold or power can buy. Though his body aches and his spirit is tired, here is warmth that no velvet robe can provide. The laughter of children, the touch of a wife's hand, the steady rhythm of a life lived close to the earth. And yet, even in this simple joy, a shadow lingers. The peasant wonders what the coming seasons will bring. Will the crops survive the coming winter? Will sickness spare his family? Will the overseer demand more than they can give? As dusk deepens into night, both men, king and peasant, pause in their vastly different worlds to wonder the same haunting questions. Am I doing enough? Am I safe? What will tomorrow take from me? Two lives so far apart, yet joined by the invisible threads of hope, fear, and the unending passage of time. Night descends slowly, gently swallowing the last hues of twilight as a deep indigo sky settles over the land. The stars begin to blink awake, quiet sentinels of a world suspended between day and dream. In the castle of Eldenmark, hundreds of flickering candles cast dancing shadows along stone walls heavy with history, their flames fragile against the vast coldness of the night beyond. Inside a private chamber, the king sits alone at a heavy oak desk cluttered with scrolls, maps, and letters. The faint scent of parchment and beeswax lingers in the air, mingling with the faint aroma of burning pine from the hearth. He pours a cup of spiced wine from a silver flagon, the liquid shimmering deep ruby in the candlelight. His fingers rest on the smooth rim of the goblet, trembling slightly, not from the drink, but from the weight of the day's relentless demands. Around him, the room is lined with shelves stuffed with tomes of law, history, and ancient lore. The accumulated wisdom of generations. Yet tonight, all knowledge seems insufficient. His gaze drifts toward the window, where heavy velvet curtains are drawn back to reveal the castle battlements silhouetted against the sky. The distant howling of a lone wolf echoes faintly, a chilling reminder that danger lurks not just in foreign lands, but often closer, in the shadows within these walls. In this quiet, he allows his thoughts to wander, to the faces of the nobles who seek favor or conspire in silence, to the farmers who toil unknown beyond the castle gates, to the fragile peace that rests precariously on his decisions. He wonders if he is truly fit to bear the crown, or if it has become a weight that slowly crushes his spirit. The burden of rule is a loneliness few understand, surrounded by people, yet often utterly alone. The sounds of celebration drift through the corridor. Minstrels playing lutes and flutes, the distant clink of goblets raised in toasts, laughter ringing hollow in the grand halls. But the king remains apart, the heavy silence of his chamber wrapping around him like a shroud. Sleep is a stranger. His nights are filled with whispered worries and plans, the steady thrum of responsibility pounding in his chest. He rises, stretches weary limbs, and walks to a small, barred window. Outside, torchbearers pace the ramparts, vigilant in the cold night air. The city below sleeps uneasy, and the king knows that peace is a fragile thing, maintained by sword point and law. Each shadow may hide a threat, each smile may conceal a dagger. Trust must be earned anew every dawn. Far from the stone towers and silken halls, the village of Farthingdale embraces the night in a quieter, humbler way. The sky above is a deep canvas of stars, twinkling softly over thatched roofs and winding lanes bathed in the silver glow of the moon. The cool night air carries the mingled scents of damp earth, burning peat, and flowering herbs growing wild by the well. Inside his simple cottage, Elric moves slowly, tired but steady. The hearth glows warmly, sending flickering light across the rough-hewn wooden walls, the scent of smoke mingling with the faint aroma of baked barley bread cooling on the windowsill. His children, flushed with the day's adventures, lie curled beneath patchwork quilts stuffed with straw and feathers, their breathing slow and even in sleep. His wife sits quietly by the fire, hands working the coarse wool of a scarf, the lines of fatigue softened by a gentle smile as their eyes meet. The modest meal of thick pottage and watered ale shared between them is humble, but it carries the taste of survival and love, an unspoken bond forged through hardship and hope. Elric takes his place on a sturdy wooden stool carved by his own hand. The roughness of the seat contrasts with the smoothness of the firelight playing across his weathered face. Here, there are no gilded thrones or silken robes, only the simple rhythms of family and earth. This place, filled with laughter and warmth, offers a refuge from the unforgiving demands of the fields. Yet even here, the worries persist. He wonders about the coming winter. Will the crops yield enough? Will illness spare his wife and children? Will the overseer demand heavier tithes as the village struggles? These questions sit like stones in his chest, a quiet but constant ache beneath the surface of daily life. Sometimes, Elric steps outside beneath the moon's pale light. The village lies silent save for the occasional hoot of an owl or the rustle of leaves in a gentle breeze. He gazes upward, finding solace in the vastness of the night sky, its stars unchanging witnesses to the cycles of life and struggle below. For a moment, he breathes deeply, letting the cold night air wash away the dust and sweat of the day. In these moments of stillness, despite the weight of toil and uncertainty, Elric feels a profound connection to the land beneath his feet, to the family whose lives depend on his strength, and to the quiet dignity of a life lived in harmony with the earth. As the castle and village settle into the long embrace of night, two very different lives continue their eternal dance beneath the same moon. The king, bound by duty and isolation, carries the heavy crown of a realm fraught with peril. The peasant, grounded in love and labor, finds fleeting peace beside the hearth's glow. Tomorrow, the sun will rise again, and with it, new trials and hopes for both. The castle sleeps uneasily beneath a heavy quilt of night. Flickering torches cast long shadows that crawl like restless ghosts along the ancient stone walls. The great hall, once a place of loud celebration and political maneuvering, now lies silent except for the faint crackling of dying embers in the vast hearth. In his private chambers, the king sits alone, the weight of the day settling like a stone in his chest. The silence is oppressive yet filled with echoes, the whispered advice of counselors, the murmured complaints of vassals, the cries of distant villages struggling under the strain of taxes and war. These voices haunt his mind, demanding attention even when his body aches for rest. His hands, adorned with the rings of his house, clutch a faded parchment, a letter sealed with wax from a neighboring kingdom. The words speak of alliances fraying, of soldiers growing restless, of famine creeping in unseen. The ink seems to blur as his eyes grow heavy, but his thoughts race faster. Decisions made here will ripple across the land, shaping the lives of thousands, including the peasants who till the fields beyond his walls. He rises, walking to a small window that overlooks the kingdom. Below, the dark outline of villages dots the landscape, small flickers of candlelight marking homes. To the king, they are more than mere dots on a map, they are the souls of his people. Yet, he wonders how many of those homes are filled with hope, and how many with fear. Despite the grandeur that surrounds him, the silks, the gold, the servitors, the king is burdened with solitude. No bed feels soft enough to ease his worries, no wine strong enough to drown his doubts. He knows that tomorrow will bring more councils, more pleas, more battles, both in war and in court. Far away, beneath a sky strewn with stars, Elric lies on a simple pallet of straw beside the hearth. His body is weary beyond words. Every muscle aches, every joint protests the relentless labor of the day. Yet, as his children sleep peacefully nearby, he feels a profound sense of purpose. The village is quiet now, save for the soft murmur of the wind weaving through the trees and the occasional hoot of an owl. Outside, the moon casts a gentle glow, illuminating the thatched roofs and winding lanes. The scent of damp earth mingles with the faint smoke from chimneys. Elric's thoughts are humble but heavy. He thinks of the winter months approaching, the cold that bites through walls thin as paper, the scarcity of food, the threat of illness. He thinks of his wife's steady hands, the laughter of his children, the kindness of neighbors who share what little they have. His mind wanders to the village chapel, where he prays silently for strength, for health, for enough. His prayers are simple, unadorned, but filled with heartfelt hope. Though he has no crown, no army, no court, Elric carries the weight of his family's survival. His victories are small: a field plowed in time, a sick child healed, a neighbor helped. And yet these are triumphs no less heroic than those of kings. As the fire dims, Elric feels a quiet gratitude. For the earth that sustains him, for the hands that hold his own, for the promise of another day. In these still hours, the king and the peasant dwell in vastly different worlds, yet both are bound by the unyielding march of time and the unspoken burdens of responsibility. One rules by decree, the other by daily endurance. One wears a crown forged of gold and expectation, the other wears the invisible crown of resilience and love. Both are kings of their own realms. The castle breathes a hollow, echoing silence in the depths of the night. Outside, the wind whispers softly through the battlements, carrying the faint scent of pine and cold stone. The torches along the ramparts sputter as the chill air seeps through cracks in the ancient walls. Below, the city sleeps uneasily, its quiet streets cloaked in shadows where secrets live. Inside the king's private chambers, the grand tapestry of the day's events unfurls again in his restless mind. He sits in a high-backed chair, the thick velvet cushions offering little comfort to a soul burdened by the weight of crown and country. The flickering candlelight casts uncertain shadows on the stacks of parchments before him, reports of harvest shortfalls, diplomatic letters sealed with wax, ledgers stained with ink and worry. His hands, heavy with rings and calloused from years of signing decrees, tremble slightly as he reaches for a goblet of spiced wine. The warm liquid burns a brief path down his throat, but it cannot chase away the cold doubt nesting deep within his chest. His eyes flicker toward the window, where the moon hangs low, a pale guardian over a kingdom fraught with unrest. The king is a man surrounded by power, and yet imprisoned by it. Every smile he offers is measured, every word weighed. His advisors whisper behind velvet curtains, and in every glance he reads ambition, sometimes friendly, sometimes deadly. The loneliness of the throne is a silent shadow, darker than any night. He rises and paces the cold flagstones, the heavy brocade of his robes brushing the floor with a whisper. His footsteps echo softly in the vast chamber, but the silence presses upon him like a living thing. Outside, guards patrol in pairs, their armor clinking softly, eyes sharp even in the dim glow of torches. The king knows the dangers that lurk not just beyond the walls but within. Plots born in whispers, knives hidden beneath silken sleeves. The hours stretch on endlessly, filled with the ticking of the ancient clock and the distant calls of night birds. The king's thoughts are a tangled web, questions of war and peace, justice and mercy, loyalty and betrayal. He wonders if the people see him as a protector or a tyrant. Does he carry their hopes or their curses? Sleep is elusive, a brief visitor that flees before dawn. Far from the stone and gold, the village breathes in the quiet pulse of the night. The sky is a velvet sea, glittering with stars that seem to sing ancient lullabies. The cool night air is filled with the scent of damp earth, moss, and the faint smoke curling from hearths nestled beneath thatched roofs. The trees stand as silent sentinels, their branches whispering secrets to the moon. Elric lies on a simple pallet of straw beside the hearth, the warmth of the dying fire seeping into his tired bones. His face, weathered and marked by years of labor, is softened by the peace that only comes with the company of loved ones. Around him, his wife and children sleep, their breaths slow and even, filling the small cottage with the quiet music of family. His hands rest loosely by his side, calloused and scarred from the day's toil. He thinks of the fields that await him at dawn, the stubborn earth that demands sweat and patience. His heart carries the weight of uncertainty, tempered by the fierce love for those who depend on him. Though poor, though often hungry, he knows the strength that comes from belonging, from shared struggle and simple joys. Outside, the village is draped in shadow, but alive with soft sounds, the hoot of an owl, the rustle of leaves in a gentle breeze, the distant bark of a dog. The air hums with quiet resilience, a promise that life will continue, no matter the hardships. Elric rises slowly, careful not to disturb the peaceful breaths around him. He steps outside, the cold night air biting but refreshing. Above, the stars blaze with a timeless brilliance, indifferent to the fleeting worries of men. He whispers a prayer, not grand or ornate but sincere, for the health of his family, for the mercy of the coming seasons, for strength to meet whatever dawn will bring. In this moment, under the vast sky, he feels the steady pulse of life, fragile, enduring, and profoundly human. As dawn inches closer, the world tilts toward day once more. The king will rise soon, don the heavy robes of office, and face a kingdom filled with expectation and peril. He will sit among lords and ladies, diplomats and generals, balancing diplomacy and power on a razor's edge. The peasant will rise with the sun's first light, stepping barefoot onto cold earth, ready to wrest survival from soil and sweat. His world is smaller, his struggles immediate, but no less vital. Two men, separated by fortune and fate, bound together by the relentless rhythm of time. Two kings, each reigning over vastly different realms, one of stone and gold, the other of earth and heart. As the first golden rays of dawn spill softly over the horizon, the world begins to stir with a gentle, inevitable pulse. The shadows of night retreat slowly, yielding to the quiet promise of a new day. Birds awaken, their songs spilling over fields and courtyards, weaving a delicate tapestry of sound that unites the grandest castle and the humblest cottage alike. Inside the castle, the king rises from a restless night's sleep, the heavy weight of the crown still lingering like a shadow upon his brow. The rich tapestries on the walls catch the morning light, painting the chamber in hues of crimson and gold. His footsteps echo softly as he moves through halls lined with history, a reminder of the legacy he carries and the fragile future he must protect. He dresses carefully, the embroidered robes sliding over his shoulders like a second skin. Each piece of his attire tells a story of power, duty, and the burdens that come with both. Servants move quietly around him, preparing the grand hall for the day's councils and ceremonies. The king pauses for a moment before a tall mirror, meeting his own gaze with a mix of resolve and vulnerability. Beyond the stone walls, his kingdom breathes and waits, full of faces unknown and known, lives touched by his choices, both kind and harsh. He carries their hopes and fears within him like a silent pact, aware that his reign is not just his own, but a thread woven into the vast tapestry of time. In the village, the morning air is crisp and fresh, filled with the scent of dew-kissed earth and blooming wildflowers. Elric rises as the sun's first light filters through the thin curtains of his humble home. His body aches from yesterday's labor, yet there is a quiet strength in his movements, born of routine and love. He dresses simply, pulling on worn clothes that have weathered seasons and toil alike. Outside, the village stirs slowly. Children's laughter peals from the lanes, women gather water from the well, and the distant church bell rings, calling the faithful to morning prayer. Elric steps into the warmth of the sun, feeling the solid earth beneath his feet. The day ahead will be long, filled with work and worry, but also with small joys, the smile of a child, the taste of fresh bread, the comfort of family. In this life, there are no crowns or thrones, no lavish feasts or grand ceremonies. Yet there is dignity in the labor, pride in endurance, and a deep, abiding connection to the land and those he loves. Two men, two worlds, two paths carved by fate and circumstance. The king, bound by power and solitude, walks the corridors of history with a heavy heart. The peasant, bound by earth and kinship, walks the fields with steady hands and hopeful eyes. Neither life is perfect. Both are marked by struggle, sacrifice, and fleeting moments of grace. And in the quiet between dawn and day, their stories intertwine, a timeless dance of humanity's light and shadow. So as you watch the sun rise tomorrow, remember the king and the peasant. Different in wealth, alike in spirit. One's crown is made of gold, the other's of unyielding hope. Thank you for joining this journey through time, through lives so distant yet so deeply connected. May you find in their stories a reflection of your own strength, your own challenges, and your own capacity to endure and to lead in whatever realm you call home.